Maybe you had a bad day at work.
You threw my sandwich away. My sandwich!
Maybe you're having a disagreement in your relationship.
We were on a break!
Or maybe it's something smaller, like something spilling in your bag.
Major shampoo explosion!
In today's video, I'm going to share the one technique that I've learned that seems to make just about any problem seem better. So we don't live in a perfect world, which means there's always going to be bad days and problems. And sometimes it's not about the problems themselves, but the solutions or even the way that we respond to problems that really matters. Now, there's a technique called reframing that can help with that. It's something that's used in therapy, but I've also read about it in relation to things like businesses. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what reframing actually is and how we can use it for practical solutions, our thinking, and how we respond to others. So imagine that you've got a photo and you can place it in a really old crumbling wooden frame, or you could place it in a brand new shiny gold frame. The picture is exactly the same, but depending on what frame you use, you're going to see it differently. So now imagine that you don't have a picture, but you have a problem. You put the problem into a frame and you could explore that problem within the same frame, or you could change the frame altogether and see the problem differently. So reframing is basically just changing the way we see things. It's about changing our perspective. The classic example of reframing is whether the glass is half empty or half full. When I first heard about the term reframing, and especially because it's used in therapy, I just sort of assumed that it was to do with emotions and how you deal with problems. And that was until I read the book, What's Your Problem? In this book, it talks about problem solving, not from the approach of finding solutions to the real problem, but finding a better problem to solve. So let me share an example from the book. So you're the owner of an office building and all of the tenants are complaining because the lift is too slow. They have to wait for ages, especially during their lunch break. So how would you solve this problem? Most people would say that the lift needs replacing, or maybe the algorithm needs updating. But the problem with this is these solutions only look at one problem, and that's that the lift is too slow. The building manager actually gave another alternative: put up mirrors. It worked, and obviously it did not make the lift go any faster, but it did reduce the number of complaints. And the reason for that is because people lost track of time when they were looking in the mirror in the lift. It didn't solve the problem of the lift being too slow, but it did solve an alternative problem, a reframe problem, and that's that the wait is too boring. And there's other ways to solve this problem of the wait being too boring, like having music in the lift. You could even reframe this problem in another way, and that's that too many people want to use the lift at the same time. So how could you solve that problem? Well, you could scatter everyone's lunch breaks. If you can't come up with a solution for a problem, try reframing that problem first and see what solutions you can come up with for that reframed problem. You can apply this for any area of your life. Maybe your commute to work is 3 hours, but obviously you can't make the train go faster, and you also can't find any alternative route. But we could reframe the problem. Instead of the commute being too long, commute is too boring. And I'm sure you could find solutions for that, like learning a new skill during that time. There's some things that are just completely out of our control and just don't have any solution. And this is where reframing our thinking can be really helpful. It could just be the way that you word things. So for example, changing I have to I get to. I have to homeschool my kids because of lockdown to I get to spend more time with my kids and teach them things. Changing I should exercise to I choose to exercise. A Buddhist monk also reframed the question, what is the meaning of life, to how can I bring meaning into my life? I've been using this technique so much in the past year because of lockdown. So originally I was really upset because I couldn't see my family, I had no job, and I was by myself the majority of the time. But I quickly changed my perspective to I have all of this free time and I've got so much time to learn new things. Even with YouTube, sometimes I work really hard on a YouTube video and spend ages editing, but when I put it out there, I get 100 views, and that can be really disappointing. But I've quickly reframed that to thinking, wow, I can't believe 100 people have watched this, because there was a time where I didn't even think one person would watch it. I also think reframing is really powerful when it comes to relationships, communication, and how we respond to others. We all see things differently. So sometimes when you get into an argument or a disagreement with someone, it's because you see something in a certain way and they might see things completely different. When we react to things, sometimes we're making assumptions about what we believe to be true. I actually remember reading about this when I was in school because I read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and there's an amazing story that highlights this so well. In the story, there's a woman at Heathrow Airport waiting for her flight. She buys a cup of coffee and a packet of biscuits, and with her luggage she finds an unoccupied table. She reads her morning paper, but then she becomes aware of some rustling at her table. She peeks over her paper and she's shocked to find a neatly dressed young man helping himself to her biscuits. She didn't want to make a scene, so she leaned across the table and she took a biscuit for herself. A minute or so passed, more rustling. He was helping himself to another biscuit. By the time they were down to the last biscuit in the packet, she was so angry, but she couldn't bring herself to say anything. Then the young man broke the last biscuit in half, pushed her half across to her, and then ate the other half, and he left. She was fuming even after she got up to her table and made it to her gate. When she was at her gate, imagine her embarrassment when she opened her handbag and found her packet of biscuits. She had been eating his packet of biscuits the entire time. So this story always makes me laugh because you can imagine how angry that woman would have been at the beginning when she thought that man was eating her biscuits. And then suddenly her feelings completely change when she realizes how generous that man actually was to let her eat his biscuits. The way she responded to that situation had been reframed when she was given more information. She suddenly saw things differently. And this is definitely something that we can apply to our own lives. I mean, you might have a really annoying, nagging parent who won't leave you alone, but you can really easily reframe that to think, wow, I have such a loving parent who really cares about what I do. Maybe you're really upset with a friend because she keeps replying to you with really blunt messages. You're really upset, but then weeks later you find out that she's been going through a really tough time, and suddenly you're no longer angry, but you're actually shocked that she was even messaging you back in the first place. Perspective is so important, and I really hope this video helps you with any problems that you're having. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my video on self-love, because in that video I also talk about changing the way that you see yourself and any flaws that you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.